Hello, my name is Jacob and I'm going to be reading to you Has It All Gone to Pot with Creating Safe Cannabis? Let's get straight to it. Research shows it is becoming more common to find high-potency cannabis strains that contain low levels of so-called cannabidiol, CBD, and high levels of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC. Why is this important? Well, several countries are choosing to decriminalise or legalise cannabis use, as this would possibly enable better regulation in terms of drug quality, which might reduce its harm. This comes after recent research showing that using cannabis every now and then can increase the risk of memory and attention problems, and even result in psychotic symptoms, at least in the short term. However, in the long term, evidence shows that the risk of developing a psychotic disorder or substance use disorder is much greater. Despite this, other research shows that CBD may lower the adverse effects of THC I just mentioned, but this is an under-researched area. So, the current study wanted to see whether cannabis strains with a high CBD to THC ratio would result in fewer adverse symptoms or side effects than strains with a lower ratio. Researchers in this 2022 experiment tested 4 ratios in milligrams of 0 CBD to 10 THC, 10 to 10, 20 to 10, and 30 to 10 on 46 healthy volunteers aged 21 to 50, so on average 26.62, who had used non-synthetic strains of cannabis once in the past, but no more than once per week in the past month. Prior to the experiments, urine drug and pregnancy tests were completed alongside an alcohol and carbon monoxide breath test. Blood samples were also taken before the participants were given cannabis, and at 5, 15, and 90 minutes following final exhalation after using a vaporizer. This allowed the researchers to observe the blood concentration of THC and CBD. The vaporizer filled 2 opaque bags. Different ratios produce different amounts of smoke that participants used to inhale a comfortable amount of vapor after an 8-second period of holding their breath until each bag was empty. Coughing severity and inhalation duration were recorded. A warm cup of lemon and honey water was provided to help soothe the abrasiveness of breathing in the cannabis. 15 minutes after cannabis administration, participants were asked to complete 35 minutes of pencil and paper tests, which assessed their thinking skills and abilities, alongside a test which asked how pleasurable they found the effects of the cannabis. Following this, participants completed the hospital walk task, which is seen to increase paranoia following THC. This involves asking the person to purchase an item of their choice from a till operator in the hospital shop using a £2 given to them by the experimenters, remembering to ask for a receipt before returning. Once participants felt that at least 90% of the drug effect had subsided, they completed a number of additional psychological questionnaires and a diagnostic interview to see if they experienced psychotic symptoms after using cannabis. The main finding of this study was that higher concentrations of CBD did not reduce thinking problems or psychotic symptoms following cannabis use. The researchers also found that higher concentrations of THC did not show significantly more adverse effects on thinking skills like working memory tasks, so this is their ability to hold things in mind and manipulate information, which most people who smoke weed often notice can be reduced. Psychotic symptoms, as rated by the researcher, blood pressure and body temperature. That said, THC did worsen people's performance on other thinking tests and psychotic symptoms. It should be noted that some people did drop out of the experiment after having experienced one experimental dose of cannabis, meaning those who stayed throughout the experiment may have been less sensitive to the effects of the drug. The use of another additional placebo control condition where another group of people are given a fake drug that has no active chemicals in them, for example water vapor, may have made it easier to more clearly see the symptoms from ingesting THC and CBD. It's important to consider there are other possible ways by which THC and CBD concentrations naturally differ across cannabis strains and plants, particularly some plants that have a higher CBD to THC ratio produce less THC rather than more CBD. This is an avenue not explored by this experiment, but could be looked at by measuring gradual increases of CBD. Like other previous studies, the researchers found that CBD did not protect against the effects of THC among people who use cannabis every now and then. Future studies may benefit from looking to see if CBD can reduce the adverse effects of THC among long-term or chronic cannabis users. With decriminalising and legalising cannabis being a topic of much interest currently, based on this study, at least, it would seem that using high CBD to THC ratio strains as a protective regulatory strategy by governments to reduce the short-term adverse symptoms of THC and prevent mental health problems of those who use the drug recreationally every now and then might not be so fruitful. Up next in this research, it would be interesting to investigate even higher CBD to THC ratios, which may show more promising protection against the adverse effects of short-term recreational cannabis use. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.